All right, so exciting. As usual, I'm starting a couple of minutes early just because I know there's usually a delay. And I want to make sure that everyone is able to see me and hear me. Okay, all right. So if you are tuning in, do me a favor, give me a like, let me know you're here, let me know where you're tuning from. I'm so excited to see who's listening in. Today, we're going to talk about a lot of fun stuff. So let me know if you are here. Give me a like, comment. I'm excited to see who's tuning in. Wonderful. Okay, so today we're going to talk about a lot of exciting stuff. First of all, I want to help you understand the purpose of this podcast in case you haven't been tuning in and this is your first time. So I came up with this idea that I want to make coaching accessible. There are a lot of TV shows out there where people can call in, ask an expert for advice, usually related to relationships, finance, think Dave Ramsey, think Oprah Winfrey. But I was surprised that there isn't a show that's dedicated to careers. Crazy. So I thought, why don't I start this? And let me do it on LinkedIn. Let me leverage my following. Hopefully, it ends up growing so that we can help more people who can't afford coaching. And so that is my big vision. That is my big dream for this. And I am hoping that it's going to grow and it's going to help a lot of people. I've already gotten feedback, people messaging me, even telling me that they've gotten jobs just by hopping on my podcast. So that really warms my heart. So the topics vary, but the central theme today, based on the people who have reached to me, comes down to identifying their career sweet spot. What is that job out there that is in alignment with who I am as a person? A job that's going to get me excited. Now, the questions that I get varied. Sometimes people are as direct as that. And sometimes people come to me saying, my resume is not working and I'm not getting responses. And we come to the conclusion that maybe the role that they're going after may not be the right role, or maybe they do have some idea of what that dream job is, but they do not know how to materialize that dream into a reality. And let me tell you something, I can definitely relate to the last part because I did not, have any HR experience when I started my career coaching business. And I had a lot of imposter syndrome. I felt like a rookie when I first started. And so to get from that spot 4 years ago to now where I have built credibility, authority, and have actually helped people achieve what they wanted to achieve was not an easy journey. And so I'm familiar with that. And I've developed systems to help people get from that place to the place where I am now. All right, wonderful. So we are going to get started. Yay, Chris, you made it on time. I'm so happy. Speaking of Chris, and we're talking about we have actually a Chris and a Christopher today. So Chris Pomade, we are gonna bring you on. I've been waiting all week to talk to you. All right. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm a little bit tired, but otherwise I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well, my friend. Maybe
Happy
just
New
give
Year.
us in a one-liner. Tell us, tell your story is awesome, and I want more people to hear it. Okay, so tell us the story of your dream that you're trying to realize into a reality, and tell us why it's been hard.
Okay, pretty well. When I was younger, I liked broadcasting, but they didn't have all this technology. So I took law and security because I did well in law and security in high school. And I ended up doing corporate security for 23 and a half years. And at the end, the money was good, but I was miserable. I was very unhappy. And about 4 years ago, actually going on 5 years, July, I was doing some volunteer work with a local basketball team called the Guelph Nighthawks of the Canadian League Basketball League. They're now in Calgary, and they needed a camera operator. And I said, I'll volunteer, but I had no broadcasting experience. So they showed me what I needed to do. And after the game, they liked my work and they paid me for it. And then they basically referred me to Rogers TV to do more camera work. And just when the pandemic struck in March of 2020, I told one of the producers, I'm going to start up my own podcast. This is something I like. The producer kind of smiled at me like, okay, sure, whatever. And I started it. It was called originally Chris's Corner and then 30 Minutes Live with CDP. I didn't have any guests, I didn't have any audience, but I had a couple of friends that kept believing in me and I kept pushing away at it, kept working at it, getting better. And then I finally got a guest on from Los Angeles, an actress, comedian, and
Wow.
she came on and then one guest has now led to 350 plus episodes with over 345 guests. And I want to prove to people you can switch careers later in life. I'm not telling people to wait to 47 or 51 to switch, but you can do it at age is just a number. And I'm doing it the hard road too, Nana. I'm doing it the self-taught way. I'm not against schooling. I think schooling is great in that, but I've already talked to a number of people and they just told me what I'm doing is what they would teach in a classroom as well. So and this year I'm going to be doing some public speaking for high schools in Kitchener, Waterloo. Here they like my story and I just want to prove people wrong that you can switch careers at any age with hard work and passion and I'm doing it the unconventional way, but I think it can be done. So that's a little my story.
That's an amazing story. And that is the stuff that I live for. That is literally the type of clients that I love working with, the people who have gone through an unconventional journey, because I've been through an unconventional journey as well. And I believe that, people who go through the most adversity, those are the ones who build the resilience to succeed and end up doing amazing things. So thank you for sharing that. So tell me, my friend, how can I help you? I know that you're like, what is the next step for you from here? Like, what is it that you want to achieve, and what do you feel has been frustrating for you in terms of achieving that?
Well, my overall goal is I do have a radio show on in Georgia 5 nights a week, but I'm not getting paid for it. But
Mm,
it's still baby steps and it's done remotely from my home. My goal is to get into the radio industry full time and in studio or have my own business and get more sponsorships for what I'm doing now because podcasting, live streaming is the future of radio and broadcasting. So I'm looking for full-time opportunities in radio and like I said, I've had my successes and I've had my I don't look at by the way, I'm going to use the word failure. I don't look at it as a negative thing. I look at it as a setback. Anytime I get rejected, I don't take it personally. I just look at it as a setback, and your mindset is huge. You have to. I'm going to tell you this. I talk a lot. That's why I love radio. But you have
we
to
have that in common. We have that in
yes,
common,
I'm a
Chris.
chatter, yeah. So if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else is going to. And I've had a lot of people believe in me, but I've also had a lot of naysayers and skeptics. And there's been days where I felt like giving up, but no, I'm not giving up on this. And I've put in 4 years of my life, and I'm very appreciative. I've had a lot of opportunities with professional sports teams, and I'm basically getting my classroom with the Buffalo Bisons, the Buffalo Bandits, and the Toronto Argonauts of the CFL. And yeah, what I'm doing is a little bit of a harder path than the conventional way, but it can be done. And my goal is to get into radio in 2024, either in a studio or to get more sponsors to come aboard my show here as well, because you can do your own radio show from home nowadays with this technology and the equipment and stuff. And by the way, I still have a lot to learn. I think I've come a long ways in 4 years, but there's still more for me to learn and do.
Awesome. So thank you for sharing that. So you want to either, get more listeners in, right? So that your show blows up. And then that way you're able to monetize it with sponsors, right? Because in order for sponsors to find it lucrative for them to jump on your podcast and pay money, basically, they need to see that they're going to get a lot of listeners listening in. They're going to get a lot of eyeballs. And so it sounds to me that we want to grow our following, right? We want to grow our fan base. So that to me is one aspect if you want to do this on your own versus work for a radio station full time, right? Um, what is a higher priority? Like in an ideal world, would you want to go the path of building your own fan base, doing this on your own, or do you prefer, if you had it your way, to work full time in a radio or TV station?
I don't have the face for TV. I do camera work, and I have so much respect for TV, but I've always been a radio guy, so
Okay.
I would say I'm gonna be honest with you, Netta.
Mhm.
Number 1 would be full-time in a radio studio, but 1B would be to build up my brand for what I'm doing now. Like, I can always get more equipment and just I have built my audience in 4 years, but I still have a long ways to go, so, I'm taking baby steps, but yeah, for me to make this successful doing it at home, I will have to get more sponsors. I do have a General Motors sponsor, but I would have to do more of that. And I
Mhm.
am trying to get my name out there. And I even joined TikTok 3 years ago. This old guy got on TikTok 3 years ago, and it's been a really good tool. I've learned how to cut promos. If you've ever checked out my TikTok page, I promote my guests, my show, and my media work there as well.
Okay. So the angle that you're focusing on is sports, right?
Sports 80%, but I have had guests, doctors, psychologists,
Hmm.
lawyers, actors, comedians come on my show. So I think I have a good ability to connect with people because when I was in corporate security, I had to deal with rich people, poor people, middle class people, all kinds of walks of life. And I had to use my mouth, my ears. And I think that's kind of prepared me for this career because I want people to realize too I can talk more than sports. Sports is my passion, but I try to make my show diverse with guests and topics as well.
Okay, wonderful. All right. So, what do you feel is your biggest hurdle in terms of getting that full-time opportunity?
I would say the 2 strikes, and I hate saying this, but I think my age like, a lot of people don't even think I look 51, but I think the age and being self-taught are kind of 2 strikes, but the thing is, Nata, I'm willing to learn and continue to learn, and this Christmas, I spent, maybe about 2, 3 days learning how to do video editing, cutting stuff into reels, and, you know what I mean, short videos, because that's where our society is going nowadays is the way to get more people to watch your show and product is to do reels and stuff like that. And I've learned how to do that. And there's always something new to learn in the media industry, and that's what I love about it.
Okay, wonderful. So, have you gotten any feedback? Have you applied? Have you tried to go through the route of getting in front of the decision makers who hire? And if you have they given you any feedback as to whether, well, like for example, why they wouldn't take you on?
I've had some job interviews. I've had 4 or 5 for radio, and
Okay.
obviously liked my work or LinkedIn.
Hmm.
But the reason I didn't get the jobs is they went with somebody that had the college diploma, or they went with somebody with more experience, and I thank them. Some of them have told me the reasons, and some haven't. But for the
Okay.
ones that turned me down, I say thank you for the opportunity of a phone interview, a video interview, and they've told me you need to volunteer at radio stations, but I'm having trouble for them letting me volunteer. A lot of these radio stations only seem to want younger people and college students, and I'm not against that at all, by the way. And I can work with younger people as well, but it's just yeah. So I what I'm doing is I'm not getting mad about it. I'm basically going out and getting other media opportunities with professional sports teams that obviously like my work. So I'm taking setbacks and turning them into positives. So I'm just gonna keep working at it and stuff like that. But it would be nice to get into a radio station to get a little bit of a feel for it. But you know what? It's not the end all or be all because, like you said, the media industry is changing, and everything is going to live stream and podcasting. And the radio station where I'm on in Georgia, weeknights at 8, a lot of their program, I'd say 95% of it is from podcasters. And nowadays you can do it from home. So I'm trying to keep all my options open.
Okay, got it. How big is your following on LinkedIn? Or what's the biggest platform right now that you have the biggest following?
Number one would be LinkedIn, and number two would be TikTok. And
Okay,
then it would be Twitter X.
got it. How big is your LinkedIn following right now?
LinkedIn, I have just over 2,100 connections.
2,100. So
Yes.
2,100 connections.
Yep. 2,100. Yep.
Okay. So are you open to some coaching and some feedback in terms of what you could do to
Yes.
get to your goal? Okay,
Yep.
wonderful. So we got to bring that following up, right? We got to bring it, even if I were to try to get it to get into radio or TV or whatever media, they would not even look at me because you need we're talking like 200,000 followers. Okay. Um, so we got to work on bringing that follower number up,
Okay.
right?
I'm writing this down.
Yes. Now, the big question is how do we do that? Right? That's the big question. So tell me, who is your ideal listener? Who do you think would enjoy your content? Who are you trying to speak to?
I would say my age. I've had people that the thing is, I've had people
I
that are in their
Not age, not age. I don't
age.
care about age right now.
Okay.
Tell me from an interest perspective, someone who, regardless of how old you are and how old the person is, what is that person's general interests? I mean, think about it. Who do you listen to? Like, who's someone that you enjoy listening to from a podcast, radio, whatever perspective?
I guess a lot of the podcasts I listen to are guys that are sports oriented, but I also like to listen to talk shows that do more than sports. Like
Okay,
get guests like actors, comedians, just a regular talk show, a
right.
diverse type of show. So
Okay, so give me an example of one that you really like.
I would say this gentleman, his name's Mike Farwell. He's in Kitchener. He does Monday to Friday on the radio station. He does some sports stuff, but he does political stuff. He does a little bit of everything. And I just want to kind of sort of be like him in a way because I want to be able to be diverse. I want to be able to show the radio industry, hey, this guy's just not sports. He can do other things too. Have good conversations with people and have good entertaining shows.
Okay, cool. Why do you listen to him versus someone else? What makes him different that compels you to listen to his content?
Because he's well prepared. He's well prepared and he knows how to communicate with his guests. And I guess his story, he had to work his butt off to get into the radio industry as well. So I can relate to him that way as well. And he's generally a good person too. I've interviewed him a few times and I had him on my shows, and I just have so much respect for him in that. And the thing is, everybody's got their own style, and he's even told me this. He goes, "Be yourself. Don't try to be somebody that you're not." So I'm just trying to learn from my guests and pick their brains, but I also want to have my own style as well.
Okay, so if we were to get really, really deep and nitty gritty into his style, what are some of the things that he does when he's conducting these interviews? Specific things that you've observed about him that you really enjoy?
Good questions. Like he always asks the guests good questions and just brings up good topics and sometimes you can just and listening too. Listening is huge. When I first started this, I was so focused on writing stuff down. I didn't always listen to my guests and they would tell me stuff. So asking good intelligent questions, listening skills, having compassion for a guest, and just the ability to ad lib as well. Sometimes you can have a conversation like we are now. I didn't write down what I'm going to say to you. I'm basically talking to you like a natural conversation. So just those kind of the things.
Conversation is build what we call your audience persona, your ideal listener persona. Meaning, I'll tell you, when I write content, I have a specific person in mind. I have the person who feels like an underdog, who hasn't been get handed over the same opportunities that everyone else has been handed over. I speak to the person who may have gone through trauma, okay, in their life, doesn't have the same advantages or the privileges as someone else, who wants to um, do something that's meaningful, that aligns to their personality. Every piece of content, when I create it, I have that person in mind. That person mirrors who I am too. And I also have a specific style in the way I communicate, how I want people to see me. The brave, controversial person who is not going to say what everyone else says. What is the contrarian idea that I have? My contrarian idea that may be different than other career coaches is I want people to drive their career rather than let organizations drive it for them. I want people to actually not kill themselves applying to 100 jobs. I want them to be in control, and I want them to actually bring people to them versus them knocking on people's doors, right? Whereas other career coaches teach people basically to go and send 100 DMs and do cold emails to recruiters and that kind of thing. I don't believe in that. Okay. So I want you to spend more time making that very clear and writing it down on a piece of paper. And when you are conducting those interviews, when you're asking those questions, those themes need to be brought up. Now, do you mind if I do a quick screen share of your LinkedIn profile just to point out a couple of things?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
And appreciate any advice or insight you have. And the only way you get better is to keep growing and improving. And whatever you can help me with, I really appreciate you doing this.
absolutely. So I actually last night, knowing that you're going to hop on today, I spent time going through your LinkedIn content to look for patterns and to see, because at the end of the day, Chris, it really is about your audience. You're right. They're the ones who vote for you. And when we put on content, we may think that I really want to write about this because it's important to me. No, sure, it has to be important to you, but it also has to be what your ideal audience wants, right? Sometimes I personally create content and I'm like, man, why didn't people like this? And then I remind myself, it doesn't matter what I think. What matters is what my ideal audience thinks. So as I was scrolling through, your LinkedIn videos, there are a couple of things. Obviously, I don't have all the metrics you do, right? But I'm looking mostly for engagement. There's views, there's engagement. You measure the content based on that. As I was scrolling and trying to figure out, well, how come this one got one like, but then, some of them got nine. And then as I was looking through, I scrolled and scrolled and scrolled, and I'm like, where is the one that has a lot of engagement? And I saw this one, 24, 24 likes.
I've had a couple with 2,000 likes. It just content creation is there's some stuff where I've created and I thought was good and it didn't go over
Exactly.
well. And then there was stuff I filmed something about a month ago in Buffalo, something simple, and it had 2,500 likes.
Exactly. Now you gotta find the patterns and reverse engineer why this piece performed well. So tell me, do you remember this interview?
Yes, her name is Allie Brady. She's a friend of mine, and she's the in-game arena host for the Buffalo Bandits. And I've had her on my show before. She's a comedian as well, so she's not just a sports person. She is a comedian, and she's an HR person. So I have a
Wonderful.
good relationship with her.
Why do you think this interview was very well received by your audience versus some of them? Can
I
you come up
just
with a couple of reasons?
Well, first of all, she's a great speaker and she knows how to talk. She's been on TV and radio before, and we have a rapport. And when you have a rapport with somebody, it really helps. And I've only been doing live interviews for 2 years now because with the pandemic, I was only able to do virtual interviews. But I'll tell you this, Nata, is one thing to do virtual, which I like doing. But when you're doing an in person interview with somebody, it just for me, I even like it more because you have to think on your feet and you can't really you just have to be yourself and try to build a rapport with your guests. I've had some guests where they were kind of a little shy at first, and then when I ask them a specific question, they open right up. So the key with your guests virtually or in person is to try to build a rapport with them and a trust with them and just be yourself and just try to ask them good questions. And the main thing is to listen to them and what they're saying and show some compassion too if they're having a difficult time if you ask them a question or whatever.
Awesome. So what that tells me, Chris, is you got to do more of those in-person interview.
Absolutely agree
COVID,
with you.
COVID is over,
Yep.
kind of. No one
Yes.
show me, please.
Yes. Okay. I would have. I turned a negative situation. Those 2 years with the pandemic, this is basically when I started my new career. So
Exactly.
I turned something negative into a positive.
Yes. Well, now we got to double down. We experimented with a whole bunch of stuff. We have enough data to know what we need to double down on.
Okay.
So I want you to do more of those in-person interviews.
I love doing them, by the way. So yeah,
So
definitely.
do more of them.
Okay,
Because
will
I'm
do.
looking at all of the other ones. There's so many virtual ones. And okay, maybe once in a while do it if it's someone amazing and you can't travel to them. But you got to spend more time doing these in-person interviews. I did notice that pattern and I saw like it was just more interesting to watch, right? I wish I could do in person, for my live streams, but it's not possible. But anyway, regardless, right? Capitalize on that
Okay.
because you're doing sports, you're capturing those moments. And so you need to do more of that in
I'll
order
be
to
doing that
show
that
power.
weekend. This weekend I'll be in Buffalo for the Buffalo Bandits, so I'm going to be doing as many live interviews as possible. I just have to clean out the memory on my phone because these live in person interviews suck up a lot of the memory. So I totally agree with you.
Get a hard drive. That's what I have. A what is it called? A portable hard drive. But anyway,
Okay.
that is something you need to double down on. The second thing I wanted to say to you is yes, you got to find people that you have more chemistry with, and don't be afraid to maybe like delete some of the posts that didn't perform that well
Okay.
because if especially for me when I post content, if I see something didn't perform well, I delete it because it actually impacts the algorithm.
Okay.
So that's another thing to keep in mind. The third thing I observed in your interview with Ali is that you really made it about her. You made the focus on her, you showed her face, most of the time. You asked her questions, she did most of the talking, and we need to do more of that. Now, a pattern and a self-limiting belief that I keep seeing as a pattern in your basically content, especially in some of the virtual ones, okay? And I'm saying this with all of the love in my heart. I know that it's almost like you have this belief that in a way it is part of your story. And I understand that you're trying to tell your story, but you keep repeating that you are a certain age and you've been at a disadvantage and you're trying to break into radio. And I see that at the beginning of a lot of interviews that you're conducting.
Okay.
And what that is doing is it's creating that perception mostly to yourself that it might never happen or that you're at a disadvantage. And I want you to stop thinking about that and focusing on that too much. And I say this because I went through the same thing. There was a point when I just started my career coaching where I said, I don't have HR experience. I'm still new. I've never been an executive in an organization. How will I be able to coach executives? I kept saying that over and over and over again. Sometimes I say it as part of my story. Sometimes I say it out loud to my mentor. Sometimes I say it out of frustration. And it became part of me. And that's what held me back. And until I let go of that idea and I said, who the heck cares? Why does it even matter that I talk about this? And brought in that confidence that it didn't matter and coached people anyway and had conversations with executives without even bringing that up. Until I did that, I did not break through to the next level. So, sure, share your story once in a while if someone asks you, but don't bring it up every time. And don't, bring in that energy of almost like you're with someone who's a shark and you're like almost like trying to it almost comes across like you're like, in a way you're apologetic about it, but you shouldn't be. Okay, it doesn't matter how old you are, my friend. It doesn't. Okay. There are people who are older and have amazing shows. I
It's
want
true.
you to act like you've already achieved it. Like this is no longer an issue. Embrace that you're already a radio host. You are. You are. You're conducting interviews. Stop, sharing that story of I'm trying to break in. You're not trying to break in. You already broke in.
I guess I'm very hard on myself. And instead of focusing on what I've achieved and my successes, I guess sometimes I'm guilty of focusing on the non-successful things. And I guess I need to work on my mindset as well.
You should, and I think you're doing a great job, and I think you ought to be proud of yourself versus constantly saying, but I haven't done this yet, but I have these limitations and this and that. I would not bring that up anymore.
Okay.
And then the last thing I'm going to leave you with, LinkedIn does well with long form content, and maybe you want to change it up. Okay, maybe one post can be about how, about your story, and
Okay.
then, maybe you want to throw in some career related stuff because LinkedIn does very well when it comes to career related topics. But that's my overall advice for you, my friend. I hope that this has been helpful, and let us know how things work out. I'm sure
Uh,
that there are a lot of people who identify with your story. I mean, anyone listening, post in the comments and share with us if this is something that resonates with you.
okay. I want to say thank you so much for this opportunity, and I appreciate any feedback and advice. And sometimes you need somebody who's on the outside to show you things because sometimes you get tunnel vision. And no, I appreciate you pointing that stuff out with me. And I want to say thank you so much. And I would definitely, hopefully, maybe one day I can have you come on my show as a guest
Absolutely.
as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris.
And also, would I be able to get a copy of this live?
Absolutely. So I'll send you in the email that I sent you. There's a little line that says if you want to watch the replay, click here. So yeah, just click on that link. But if you can't find it, then my assistant can send you the link for the direct link for the replay.
Okay. Well, I want to say thank you, and it's Nada, right? Nada.
Yes, you got it.
Okay. Okay. Because I always try to pride myself on getting my guest names or when I'm on a video call like this right as well. But I want to say thank you so much again for your feedback, and I'm definitely going to apply your suggestions and advice to LinkedIn and my show as well. And I'm going to keep doing more live interviews, by the way,
You're very welcome.
and hopefully we can stay in touch on social media on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. All
Thank
right.
you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, friends, I'm sure that a lot of you can relate, to basically feeling like an underdog, and I hope that this was helpful to you all. So the next guest that we are bringing on is, and I hope I'm saying your name right, Sarab. Did I say your name right? How do you say your
Hi,
name?
hi, Neda. Did I spell it right?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay. Yeah, you spelled it right. Nice to meet you, Nada. on,
Nice to meet
you
you,
know,
my friend. How are you doing?
I'm doing good as well. Thank you for asking. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't get a chance to ask my question in the past event, so I was like, okay, I'll probably reach out to you and see if I'll get another chance, you know? So,
Absolutely.
yeah. Um, Now, my particular question is about my profile per se. I mean, like, I come from a variety of backgrounds. If you look at my LinkedIn profile, I've done like, I started out in agency recruiting for like couple of years. Then worked on my own business, and then I moved to tech side. I mean, that's the, area I want to stick into, like, doing the product management side of the business.
Mm-hmm.
So, my background in tech side comes from the legal technology side. I worked with a startup for a year, and then I took a break because there was COVID hitting, and then I was like, I have to like go back to school and like do my MBA per se. So I went back to school, did my MBA, and then now I'm like on the market for a year. I've been like struggling to find a job at this point because now I want to like move into particularly the gaming industry. I'm like a huge gamer myself, so
I
um,
love that.
right. So I've been networking heavily last year from last year. I've been doing like a bunch of posts on LinkedIn, and I also upskilled a bit. So I'm trying to like figure out how I can like transition easily into gaming because in the past year, if you've read the news and what's happening in the gaming industry, there's so many layoffs happening. So game studios are closing down, and then it's hard for like the new tech talent to come in and like get hired, and it's very competitive. So I was like trying to figure out what's the 3 cent or what's the secret sauce to actually get into like the gaming side of the business, especially the tech side.
Got it. So you're trying to transition into the gaming industry, and what is the
Yes.
role that you want? Is it a product leader role or what role?
Product manager or a product owner kind of a role. Yeah.
Got it. Why is it
Yeah.
so important to you to land this role?
Well, so that resonates with me a bit because I'm more of a people person. I love working with teams, and then also I love working with tech. I would love to like build. I love building products as well from the scratch
Mhm.
up, and also like improving products which are there on the market. Talking about like games which are already there in the market. Building their experiences, building the art side of the business as well, the different crafts which go into the gaming side. So I have always been interested and intrigued about how the games are developed back in the backstage. And I've been like attending a few of these um, podcast events from the gaming industry, like people who work in the gaming industry, especially the big names talk about Activision, which built the Call of Duty game. So I've networked a lot in the past year, um, and I've built up connections on LinkedIn too. So it resonated with me that way because this is a very interesting industry. I've been playing games, so I wanted to like stick to gaming side of the business. Yeah.
Okay, so what would you do if you got into a gaming company? Like, why should a company pick you over someone else?
For me, because first thing, I am passionate about games. That's my first part. Second thing, I love building experiences for players per se, because with the new tech coming in, I can like improve the player experiences, and because the player is the customer there, right? So I
Mhm.
love building the experiences for players. Um, um, that's the fun part of it as well. Gaming, working in the gaming side is fun as well. So those are like three things for me at this point. But yeah.
Okay, so saying this with all the love in my heart, right? A
Yes.
company is not going to choose you based on you thinking that it's fun doing these things, right?
Right.
They're going to choose you based on something that you bring to the table, or an approach that you bring to the table, or a behavioral trait that you bring to the table that is different than someone else. Okay. People don't hire me because it's fun for me to coach them on their career. I'm having fun right now in this podcast, but people are not going to hire me because they see me having fun. I mean, maybe that is a small part of it because they want to see that I'm going to care. They're going to hire me for more than that, right? Maybe they'll hire me because I'm really good at reading people. I have a knack at that. Maybe they'll hire me because I'm very pragmatic and I break things down in a way that it's easy for them to understand, right? So, what do you think you bring to the table as a product manager that makes you unique, that makes a company want to pick you over another product manager?
Yeah, makes sense. So I've not been like, working in the product side of the business for like, years together per se. I've just joined the product management side of the business like a year and a half, I would say. So
Mhm.
usually in a product management business, they want people at least with 2 or 3 years of experience. So um, I actually, the max I can bring to the table is something like a competitive intelligence because I've done product teardowns, I've done game related breakdowns, I've done like
Okay.
how we can like improve the game. I've written like posts about it, not on LinkedIn but on a different platform. So on a gaming related platform, and also I can also work with um, the tech side of the business because I've done SQL. I've also worked with different technologies like data visualization, and then I'm learning Python at this point. Python from machine learning because that is something which is like needed at this point with the AI and ML coming in. So those are the three things at this point. Bringing the competitive intelligence, doing product teardowns. That's my experience, like the basic experience I have on the gaming side,
Okay.
and
So tell me that experience, that hands-on experience related to gaming. What is it specifically? Was it through your user experience or was it something that you contributed to or built?
user experience. I actually wrote about it, like what exactly the game is, and then also how we can like improve the game. That's the basic idea behind it. But experience wise, if you want to talk about it, I'm currently working on a small project. It's more of a guided project, but I'm building a game from the scratch, like a 2D game and a 3D game. So I'm building up my project portfolio at this point. Yeah.
What is something that you have done in your last role as a product manager that you feel you can bring to the table to a gaming company?
Well, so I actually worked directly under the founder, alongside the founder of the startup. I got a chance to actually work with him and like build the product from scratch.
Mhm.
Now, the basic idea behind that product is like it's a SaaS platform, wherein like it's used for automating the green card application process. So
Okay.
that's like I at the time when the startup was started, it was not much like visible in the market because there are not many companies which were doing that at this point. Yes, they have been doing, a lot of those companies have started doing that, but it was a very very rare product back then. So the process which I worked with, that is something which I can bring to the table. The experience I had, let's say, starting from building the product road mapping, doing the product road mapping, building the MVP, working with engineers, and then also working on the coding side of the business also, because it was like a small company back then, not many people working. So I had to like take up a lot of responsibilities. Let's say doing the data side of the business, data science related analysis, and then also doing the querying side, and then improving the product, talking to customers, a bunch of things together. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Any product listeners on here listening in, maybe you can just throw in the chat something that makes you that you feel makes you unique as a product manager, just to help Sarab out and give him some ideas. So if you have a minute and you're in product, I'm curious to know, what do you feel makes you different as a product manager? What is a unique approach that you have that makes you different? Okay, so here are my thoughts. Are you ready for me to share my thoughts? I've been taking notes while I'm listening to you. So here's what the sense that I'm getting. As I was talking to you, you mentioned at some point that, oh, I've only been a product manager, or I've been in product for only a year and a half. I sensed an element of imposter syndrome. Okay. There is a little bit of like, I don't know if I'm an expert yet. That's coming through. What I teach people when they navigate their career, forget about the resume and all this stuff. It drives me crazy when people talk about these things, because they're just like transactional things. Resume is just a tool. We want to understand a layer deeper, right? About the core issue of what's holding you back from getting the job. How I teach people to get a hiring manager to hire them is to become an influencer in their career. There are different levels. There's a novice, never done it before. There is what I call an expert. Yeah, you're good at it, but so are 10 other people or 100 other people. And then there's an influencer who has a unique approach. And this, by the way, has nothing to do with having a degree. I helped someone who got into one of the top gaming companies in Europe. He did not have a degree. And no, he was not in his 20s or 30s. Okay. How I helped him get there is I helped him come across as an influencer. Someone who not only knows gaming inside out, but also someone who has ideas, because he was a business owner for the longest time and started several businesses, whether it was a trucking business, whether it was actually coaching, helping musicians come up with an album. He had several businesses and he had ideas on how to monetize a business. So he had a lot of ideas in terms of how to actually upsell people when they're playing games that were unique from everyone else. And so when we brought those stories and ideas, all of a sudden he is an influencer. It didn't matter that he didn't have degrees. It didn't matter that he was never a product manager by title or a scrum master. Okay. Now, when you're talking to me and saying I've only been in product in a year and a half, and that's a belief that you have, and there is that discomfort where from a product perspective, you don't even feel like an expert, that's going to come through, my friend. And I'm seeing that on your LinkedIn profile. I'm seeing that by the way that you're calling yourself. Okay. You were, so you talk about how you were a recruitment specialist, how you're head of internal sourcing, how you're a product analyst. Those things don't matter to me. But how long have you building products, regardless of your title? You got to talk about that more. And even if you haven't, built products, I want to know what you did at that startup. You don't talk about it in your LinkedIn. You talk about, I don't know, was it Greenboard or was it
Greenboard?
Yeah. You're not telling me about the product. And as a product manager, you got to demonstrate your product sense. So that's one thing. So we have an established authority within the product space, and maybe we have, but we're not able to communicate it. And then at the same time, we have an established authority in the gaming industry. So it's making it very tough for you to break in, because usually when people are going through a transition, it's not the industry plus the role at the same time. It becomes very hard. So either come to terms and communicate that, or maybe have a lily pad where you get into a gaming company, maybe not as a product manager, but in a different role that you're comfortable in. And then the next lily pad is becoming a product manager within that space. Okay. And even when you talk to me about gaming, right? Companies are not going to hire you because you're just creating thought leadership. And I'm not even seeing that thought leadership posted on your LinkedIn. When I look at your LinkedIn, especially in the featured section, and I'm just going to do a quick screen share here. I'm seeing these things, right? There's nothing about gaming here.
Right.
Or at least I'm not seeing it right away. I have to keep scrolling. Maybe it's in there. I don't know. But when I'm on your landing page, this is literally your storefront. Okay. I want to see
Right.
off the bat that you're all about gaming. I want to get that vibe. I'm not getting that vibe. I'm seeing a photo with like, I don't know, is this Dallas? I'm not really good with geography. There
It's
isn't
New York.
New
Yeah.
York. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
This isn't gaming, my friend, right?
Right.
Like, just show me that you're a gamer. Put some articles that you've written about gaming in your featured section.
Right.
So, and then in your experience section, show me that you know how to build products inside out. Tell me that you've built them from scratch, so that, maybe I'll overlook the fact that you don't have the industry, knowledge, but at least I'll see that you can build products, right? And throughout your
Yes.
career, not just in your last role. Even as a recruit, even when you were in recruitment, talk to me about how you help them automate it. What are features that you help them put in, even if you were just a subject matter expert and you weren't part of the development team? Make sense?
Makes sense.
Oh,
That
sorry, I just removed you accidentally. Go ahead.
sorry, that's fine. Great thoughts, Nara. I am actually like, it actually resonates with me as well. I've been thinking about these things, what you talked about. I have to like optimize my LinkedIn profile, talk about my experience a bit more. I have started, well, technically it's still in the talks, but I am volunteering for a gaming related nonprofit to actually build the experience. Um, I'm gonna be joining, let's say, next week, because I've been talking to the manager of mine who is like willing to work with me, and I'm also starting uh, to start writing articles on LinkedIn, and start my own podcast with a bunch of other people, like 12 other people.
Mhm.
So I've been
Good.
featured as well. I've been featured as well on LinkedIn. If you look at my profile, you'll get to see a feature made by one of the ABK employees, Activision Blizzard King. So these are like 12 people I'm working with together, and we are still in the works of starting the whole LinkedIn presence thing in terms of the gaming side of the business. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Just make that more obvious. It should be the
Yes.
first thing that I see in your featured section.
Yeah.
What was I going to say before I let you go? Um, I wanted to say, yes, how my client got into gaming, right?
Yes.
I think as human beings, sometimes we get a little bit impatient with ourselves, and we want to just get there fast. Sometimes we're doing the right things, but then we get into the state of anxiety and we're like, oh my God, why didn't I achieve my goal yet? I think you will get there. You just got to be a little bit more patient with yourself. So how my client got into gaming was, first of all, like you, he was an avid gaming user. He had a why, his big why. And what I'm telling you that you need to tap into to understand what makes you different when you go into the organization as someone who is a gaming product manager. His big why at the beginning was, I want to build, games without coding. I want to make that a possibility. He went into a rabbit hole and he found, a company that does that. Okay. I believe it was, I'm not going to name the name, but anyway, he found it and then he learned how to do that. And then he inserted himself into all of these forums, contributed to it, The founder let him start teaching it. And then eventually he built his way up, right? Going into the rabbit hole, understanding the games inside out. And then eventually he got in as a product manager. Okay. So I like the idea that you're building this gaming product. I think you should keep doing it. And I think you should use it to even have networking conversations with other founders. And I think on top of that, you got to work on rebranding yourself and communicating your value. And of course, you can reach out to me as well. We can talk about that a bit more.
Perfect. Thank you. So one last question for you is now, let's just say I'll be practical in this sense.
Yeah.
If not getting into the gaming side, I'm thinking about like starting to work in the tech consulting, starting that background in tech consulting, working as a data analyst or a business analyst, because I've been talking with a lot of people in the industry, at least in the gaming side of it. They've given me the advice saying that starting out directly in gaming, if it's not possible, you can always make your way up from business analyst role or from a data analyst role working in the tech consulting background, because most of the people they are seeing, at least in the gaming industry, they are prominently from the tech consulting background.
Okay. Do you really want to get into gaming companies? Like if that doesn't happen, are you going to care?
Well, eventually I would love to work for a gaming company if it's not a possibility right now, but I'm more fixated on the tech side of the business. I love working with tech, talking about
But how is you working in a startup not tech though? Help me understand. Like what specifically in tech that you want to get into?
Tech consulting is basically working with different clients per se, like, a variety of clients, let's say retail, and then let's say fintech, because a tech consulting company has a bunch of clients, right? So I'll get a varied experience over there. That's the idea I was thinking about. I could be
Okay.
wrong.
I'm
Yeah.
going to pause you because I
Yeah.
also want to get in my last guest and make sure that he gets a lot of time
Yes.
as well. And I'm happy to also stay longer.
Hmm.
I was a tech consultant most of my life, just so you know. Okay, I worked for boutique consulting companies. I worked with one of the big five. I worked in consulting companies that had in-house development. You got to have a niche, even in a consulting company. I think what you're struggling with right now, and I think what your biggest blocker at the moment is you're not clear on your end goal and what your zone of genius is. And until you figure that out, and this is why I kept asking you during the entire conversation, what's going to make you different as a product manager? Until you answer that, it's going to be tough for you. And so you definitely need to figure that you need to answer that question, because if you don't answer it, your branding is not going to be focused. And I don't believe that you should be thinking about what I understand practicality. And when I coach people, I don't coach them on fluffy ideas. We talk about what's practical. But there is a difference between practical and I'm going to do this because it's easy. People who are successful, they don't do things because they're easy. Nothing is easy. Everything is hard. People think that what I do is easy, that career coaching is easy. There's a million career coaches and I have to compete against them. And the way I do it is because I have to really get clear on why I do this and what makes me different. And every profession is the same thing. It's always going to be oversaturated. It's always going to be hard to get in. And so I really want you to think about this, watch the replay, and really put some thought into what is it that you enjoy doing. Maybe do an audit of your entire career and write down what aspects and things that you did in each of these jobs that lit you up. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you, Nera. Thanks for, spending time with me. And, I can always reach out to you, shoot you a quick
Absolutely.
question. Yeah.
Absolutely. Reach out to me and then maybe we'll book a call. All right.
Thank
Wonderful.
you.
You're very welcome. Okay. Christopher, you've been patiently waiting.
Yes, I have.
All right. I hope at least you learned from the others' questions. And
Yes,
some of them
it's a lot
resonate.
of good stuff.
Good. Okay, so share with me what is going on. What are some of the challenges that you're facing, and what is your end goal?
Well, one of the problems that I've been having is I have a plethora of skills, a whole basket full, but I just don't know how to communicate them to people who need them.
Okay. So sounds to me like you're facing a similar situation as our last, caller, where he was having difficulty figuring out, what is it that he wants to focus on. Do you feel that way because you're like, oh my God, I'm good at so many things, and I feel like now I have to pick, one over the other when it feels like I'm, choosing amongst, one of my kids or something?
Well, that's what I've been feeling that way for the past, I can't even tell you how long, but I've been whittling down what I would like to be when I grow up.
Okay.
And it's come down to people analysis, research translation, and change management. But I still am not able to communicate that to the people who matter.
Mm-hmm.
I've been networking, I've been writing articles, I've been doing all the good stuff, but nothing's working.
Okay. So let's dig deeper into why, and what lights you up. I noticed that on your LinkedIn that you have a master's degree in industrial and organizational psychology.
Yes.
Curious as to why you decided to get that degree.
Well, the reason why I got the degree is I enjoy working with people. I enjoy the analysis side of work, and I enjoy building things. Not as far as architecture. I enjoy the process of seeing something build from the ground to
Mhm.
the finished process.
Interesting. When you say you like seeing something being built from the ground to the organized to the very like the end-to-end process, right? What is it specifically that you enjoy building?
I enjoy building processes that people can use to build other things.
Okay. And why is it so important for you to build these processes?
I think it's the superhero complex that I have, that I'm out there to save everyone.
Okay. Okay. Have you been through something in your career where now you're in a position where you wish you had someone who could help you with that, and now you are trying to do it so that people in your shoes don't have to go through that frustration?
Would probably be when I was research analyst with the Kessler Foundation. I especially enjoy building healthcare processes and making sure that people have the healthcare that they need and that they deserve.
Is that something that you've experienced, or when you were doing that, did you see any of your team members suffer through something and you were like, oh my God, I gotta change this. I'm so tired of seeing this. Have you
Yeah,
ever had that feeling where you were like, oh my God, I'm so sick and tired of dealing with this. I wish I could change it.
I'm sick and tired of seeing people trying to deal with healthcare technology and not being able to.
Okay, good.
It should be easier to deal with.
Why is it so hard?
I think it's because people think it's so scary because it's healthcare. It can affect my health. And it most technologies are built so that you can't break them. Like, computer programs are structured so that unless you can actually get into the code, you really can't break it.
So what is your goal? How do you want to make life better?
My goal is to
I'll give you
make,
$1 million. There's nothing standing in your way. What would you do?
make sure that people had healthcare technology that they deserve. The process that would make life better for people.
Okay, be more granular. Pretend I'm a 5-year-old and help me understand, what do you mean by people would have healthcare technology? Are you talking about an app? Are you talking about, like, I don't know, like I go to a hospital and I don't have to walk to the hospital across the street just to get my MRI records and pass it on to them. Like, be more specific and help me understand what you mean by that.
I'm talking about making things simpler for people, like the healthcare records. It shouldn't be as difficult as it is to get records from one doctor to another. Like the MyChart app, that's a good start, but it's not perfect.
Okay,
Healthcare hardware for disabled individuals. It should be more accessible.
so let's talk about the MyChart app as an example, because I can definitely relate to that. What would your contribution be? Like, you want to be part of that implementation? Is that what your contribution should you envision it to be?
My envisioning would be to negotiate a way that patient records are accessible throughout MyCharts.
Okay. And how
There
are
aren't
you?
there aren't the individual MyChart apps for each hospital.
So do you want to be part of coming up with the ideas in terms of, like, imagine yourself, obviously you have to be part of a team to make that happen,
Yeah,
right? So what role would you play on a team in order to make that dream a reality?
that would be change management, because that would be a significant change.
Okay, pretend I'm a 5-year-old. What does that mean? You show
That,
up to work, what do you do, regardless of title?
that would mean introducing to the people involved what needs to be done to implement the new process and all the changes that go in with it.
And what do you think is the biggest downfall that you want to be part of ironing out to basically ensure that this takes place?
Well, it would probably come down to money.
Okay. So I'm hearing that you want to be at the program level? Do you want to
Yeah.
be part of putting the processes in place? Or do you want to be part of coming up with the ideas on what's going to go into that platform, product, application, system, whatever it is?
It would be process implementation.
Okay, wonderful. So when I help people figure out what their ideal job is, I get them to complete what I call a career archetype quiz. I
Mhm.
just asked you a few questions from that career archetype quiz. It's a more comprehensive quiz. Usually there's a whole bunch of other questions that I ask. But what this helped me understand, obviously, is your superpower is putting the systems and structures in place so that the team doesn't get derailed and so that this gets implemented. Okay.
Yes.
Maybe you will contribute a little bit to the ideas, but you're actually gonna, make the execution happen. And yes, there's gonna be
Mhm.
resistance, there's gonna be friction, and you it sounds like you are good at handling that because you have
Yeah.
that background psychology and you know that people can be pains in the fill in the blank, and we got to change their behavior, right, in order for them to create better results. And so that's your superpower.
Yes. In the end, I'm an organizer.
Yes. And so when I'm looking at your LinkedIn profile, my friend, I'm not seeing that being described in a way that aligns with
Mhm.
that. I see lead business analyst, I see project performance researcher, I see employment assessment specialist, I see organizational development specialist, but I'm not seeing that kick-ass person who is an organizer of chaos. I don't see that theme, and the titles don't align with that. Why not put a vertical line and say, change, basically, I don't know, change management. uh, we're talking program level, you're talking to me, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Describe the magnitude of the programs that you were part of. Describe how chaotic it was and how you organized them, because I'm not seeing that on your LinkedIn profile. It's not telling me that story. And this is why I asked you all these questions, because people overly focus on titles. They
Mhm.
overly focus on just talking surface level about what they've done, but they don't bring in that superpower or theme that aligns with the role that they're trying to get into, or what I call their avatar. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So should I make it sound more fun or professional?
Professional.
Okay.
But, you know, tell more of a story in terms of
Mhm.
the types of organizations that you were part of. We're talking healthcare system, right? We're talking healthcare environments. You know that they're chaotic. You know that they're massive and
Yeah.
monolithic. So have you worked in organizations that mirror that in some way, even though the industry is different?
Yes, I've worked
So
with.
this, yes, so describe that part of it.
Mhm.
It's not there.
All right.
And that's what we talk about when we talk about transferable experiences. People don't understand that concept. What we're trying to do is create that relatability. It might be a different industry, but it doesn't matter if it
Mhm.
has the same characteristics. And when a hiring manager looks at that and says, "Holy crap, Chris, like how did you end up convincing all these executives and rallying, I don't know, 10 different departments and aligning them on a direction?" That's exactly what we need, right?
Mhm.
And so I want you to think about it from that perspective.
All right.
Tell your story, and we can talk about it more if you like, on a virtual coffee.
Okay. That works.
Wonderful. All right, everyone. I know that we went a little bit over time, but I wanted to, give justice to all our guests, and hopefully this has been helpful for everyone. If you want to work with me on a deeper level because you felt that you really enjoyed my coaching, then I definitely encourage you to reach out to me. I'm happy to have a virtual coffee with you. Otherwise, I want this to be accessible to more and more people. I want to keep doing this. So I want to ask you for a favor. Please like this if you got value, if you learned something, if you related to the problems and frustrations that these guests had, because what that's going to do is it's going to end up putting this in someone else's feed who's having a bad day, who's frustrated and stuck, and then they watch this video and the light bulb goes off and they're able to remedy their situation. And if you want to be my next guest as well, feel free to reach out to me. All right, just send me a DM. All right, amazing people. I hope you have a fabulous day. Thank you so much for tuning in. The next episode is actually going to be next week, Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern, and then Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. So every week I'm going to be doing these Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern, Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. So all you have to do is go on my profile and you'll be able to see my live. Or if you don't know how to find the next event, then simply DM me. All right. Hope you all have a wonderful night. Thank you so much for all the guests for sharing their experiences. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Happy New Year.